Chapter 4, What We Couldn't Say. It started with dinner, just a quiet Tuesday night. Rain pattered gently against the windows, the kind of rain that made everything feel too still. Lena had cooked, not anything extravagant, just pasta and garlic bread, and Eli had opened a bottle of wine. They hadn't shared a meal since the night everything ended 2 years ago. Now they sat at opposite ends of the table, like guests at a polite dinner party, as the air filled with the aroma of basil and something far heavier, unspoken tension. "Did you get the email from your client?" Eli asked after a long silence, twirling spaghetti around his fork. Lena shrugged. "Which one?" "The brand client, the one you were stressing about last week." "Oh, yeah, it was fine." Another lull. Eli leaned back, watching her. "You always shut down when something's not fine." She didn't look up. "Not everything is an invitation." He flinched just slightly, then nodded. "Right, sorry." They kept eating, the scrape of forks suddenly thunderous. After dinner, Lena began clearing plates. Eli stood to help, reaching for the wine bottle. Their hands brushed. She froze. He didn't pull away. "Do you ever think about it?" he asked, voice low. Lena stiffened. "About what?" "What we were." She slowly set the plate down in the sink. "I try not to." "I do," he said. "All the time." She turned, arms folded tightly. "What's the point?" Eli looked at her, his eyes dark and unreadable. "Because it didn't end clean. It never did. We just fractured and pretended that made it easier." Lena scoffed. "And if you think I pretended, you were the one who disappeared." "I didn't disappear," he said, his voice suddenly sharper. "I left because I didn't know how to stay without breaking both of us." "Bullshit," she snapped, emotion rising fast. "You left without a word, Eli. You watched me unravel when my father died, and you walked out like I was an inconvenience." "I didn't know how to help," he shouted, louder than he meant. "I didn't know how to sit with your grief and mine at the same time." Lena blinked, taken aback. "Yours?" He looked away, jaw clenched. "You weren't the only one falling apart, Lena." The words hung between them, charged and unexpected. "I never told you," he said, quieter now, his voice splintering, "about my brother." Lena's brows furrowed. "He died when I was 17, drunk driving. He wasn't even the one driving. I've spent most of my life pretending it didn't crack me open." Eli's eyes were glassy. "I never told anyone. I didn't want to be a sob story." Lena stared at him, breath shallow. "And then I met you," he continued, "and you made me feel something again. Hope, maybe, or peace. But when your dad died, watching you fall into that dark place, it brought everything back. And I froze. I didn't know how to help you without drowning myself." "You could have just told me," she said softly. "I didn't need a hero. I needed you." "I know that now," he said. "But I didn't then." Lena's throat tightened. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I can't keep pretending that what we had wasn't real, that I didn't love you, that I don't still think about what we could have been." She stared at him, at the pain in his voice, the regret etched into his face. And it hurt. God, it hurt. Because part of her still loved him. But another part, the one still nursing the wound he left, couldn't forgive that kind of absence. "I can't do this," she whispered. He stepped closer. "Lena?" "No," she said, holding up a hand. "I can't live like this, not with you in the next room, not with these memories crawling out of the walls." His voice broke. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you need to move out." Silence. Eli's chest rose, then fell slowly. He didn't fight it, didn't argue. He just nodded, a flicker of devastation in his eyes. "Okay." He left the room without another word. The next day, he was gone. Boxes were neatly stacked by the door. His side of the bathroom shelf was empty. The record player in the living room, once something they fought over, now a ghost of a shared life, was missing. Lena found the envelope on the counter, just her name, nothing else. She opened it with trembling hands. "Lena, I don't know how to say any of this without sounding like a cliche, so I'll just say it plainly. I'm sorry for leaving, for being a coward, for not telling you about my brother, or how terrified I was of being seen as broken. You saw through me anyway, and instead of honoring that, I disappeared. I thought I was doing the kind thing, giving you space to grieve without my mess. But the truth is, I was just running. You didn't deserve that, and you don't owe me anything. Not forgiveness, not closure. But I needed to say this while I still had the nerve. I never stopped loving you. Even when I left, I loved you. Especially then. I'm leaving because I don't want to keep hurting you just by being here. But if you ever want to talk, really talk, You know how to find me. Always, Eli. Lena stood there for a long time, the letter shaking in her hands. The apartment was silent. The kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room, it settles in your bones. She sat down, folded the letter neatly, and pressed it to her chest. And for the first time in a long time, she let herself cry. Not just for him, not just for the past, but for all the pieces of herself she was still learning to forgive. Chapter 5: What We're Still Becoming. It had been 2 weeks since Eli moved out. Lena had gone back to her routine, or at least the semblance of one. She worked during the day, sketched at night, cleaned more than necessary. She had gotten used to the echo in the apartment, the way her laugh didn't quite bounce back from the walls the way it had when he was here. The letter sat in her drawer, read more times than she'd admit. She hated how much she missed him. Not just the easy things, his cooking, his music humming from the next room, but the complicated ones. His silences. The way he'd sit beside her when she didn't want to talk, when the world felt too heavy. How his presence had once felt like safety and then like betrayal. Grief, it seemed, wasn't linear. Neither was healing. That morning, she walked through the city, cool air brushing her cheeks. She stopped at the cafe Eli used to like, ordered his favorite drink without thinking. Hazelnut latte. 2 sugars. She stared at the cup in her hands. What are you doing, Lena? She found herself standing outside his new apartment an hour later. It wasn't planned. She told herself she was just walking in the area, that the weather was too nice to stay inside, but there she was, outside the door she never thought she'd knock on again. She almost left. Then the door opened. Eli stood there, barefoot in jeans and a worn gray hoodie, surprised and blinking against the sun. Lena, he said, breath catching. Hey, she said, holding out the coffee like a peace offering. You left this behind. He took the cup, smiling just a little. You remembered. I tried not to, she admitted. A silence bloomed between them. You want to come in? She hesitated, then nodded. His apartment was smaller, messier, lived in the way only Eli could manage. Books stacked sideways, sketches taped to the walls, a mug on the windowsill with paintbrushes sticking out. It felt like him. They sat on opposite ends of his small couch. The silence wasn't awkward this time, just uncertain. I got your letter, she said. He nodded, eyes on his coffee. I figured. You meant it? He looked at her then. Every word. I needed time, she said, to figure out what parts of me were angry and what parts were just still hurting. I understand. And I realized something, she said, voice softening. We both made mistakes, but I never stopped wanting it to mean something, even when I said I did. I kept waiting for a sign you hated me, he admitted. It was easier to believe that than to hope you still cared, she smiled faintly. I cared. I still do. I just didn't know if we were capable of anything other than breaking each other. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Maybe we are, but I also think we could learn to be more, if we tried. Lena studied him. The guilt in his eyes was real, but so was the growth. The Eli she loved hadn't disappeared. He had changed, grown, faced things he used to run from, and so had she. I don't want to start over, she said. He blinked. You don't? No, I don't want to erase the mess or pretend it didn't happen. I want to move forward. With it. With everything. Eli's breath caught. You mean that? She nodded. We're not perfect, Eli. We're messy and emotional and sometimes infuriating. But I loved you then, and I think I still do. Not because it was easy, but because it mattered. He reached across the space between them, his hand warm as it closed over hers. I never stopped loving you, Lena, he said, voice barely a whisper. I just didn't know how to be worthy of it. You don't have to be perfect, she said. You just have to be here. He pulled her into his arms. No urgency, no desperate kiss, just silence and skin and breath and years of pain folding into something softer. Lena buried her face in his shoulder. You smell like paint and bad coffee. Eli laughed. You always said I would. They stayed like that for a long time. Later, when the sun dipped behind the buildings and the city softened into twilight, Lena rested her head on his chest and said quietly, So what now? Eli's fingers traced lazy circles on her back. We take it slow, he said. No promises we don't mean. No pretending it didn't hurt. We rebuild. She smiled into his shirt. I think I'm ready for that. So they sat in the warmth of a second chance. 2 people who'd broken each other and still chose to stay, not despite the history, but because of it. Because love, real love, doesn't erase the scars, it holds them. Lena had exactly 3 regrets that morning. 1, agreeing to go to IKEA with Eli on a Saturday. 2, letting him near the flat pack section unsupervised. 3, trusting him with an Allen wrench. "You are not putting that bookshelf together without the instructions," she warned, watching him squint at a confusing set of wooden slats laid across their living room floor. Eli, seated cross-legged on the carpet, held up what looked like a rogue piece of particle board. "This is clearly the base. It's shaped like a base. That's a side panel." "Says who?" "Says the picture literally right there," Lena said, jabbing the instruction manual with her finger. "You're holding it upside down." Eli turned it over. "Still looks like a base." "You're giving me anxiety," she muttered, tossing a throw pillow at his head. It landed with a soft thwump, knocking his pencil from behind his ear. He grinned. "Violence. That's how it starts." "You bought a black leather couch, Eli. You started it. One word, stain resistant. You have no sense of aesthetic. None. And yet," he said smugly, "you still agreed to move in with me again." Lena gave him a long look, biting back a smile. "Temporarily, still under review." He crawled toward her, leaving a trail of wooden planks like breadcrumbs. "Admit it, you missed the chaos." "I missed you," she said softly, brushing hair from his forehead. "But the chaos is part of the deal." Eli's smile faltered into something more tender. He leaned in and kissed her, sweet, warm, still slightly clumsy in that way she loved. The kind of kiss that said, "We survived the wreckage, and now we build." After a moment, he pulled back. "Hey, want to take a break?" She narrowed her eyes. "You mean give up halfway and pretend we misplaced parts so we can order takeout and watch trash TV again?" "Exactly." "God, I love you," she groaned. They sprawled out on the floor amid furniture parts, drinking wine from mismatched mugs and eating takeout noodles straight from the box. Outside, the city buzzed. Inside, their little world hummed with the sound of shared laughter and soft music. The bookshelf never got finished, but somehow everything else finally fit. Thank you for reading. If you enjoyed Roommates with History, the slow burn, the angst, the second chances, and maybe even the IKEA meltdown, make sure to subscribe for more emotionally rich, twist-filled love stories. Love isn't always tidy, but the mess? That's where the magic happens. Stay tuned for more unforgettable characters, complicated hearts, and endings that feel just right. Subscribe now because every love story deserves a little chaos and a happy ending.